Hi everybody, it's Joni here. Welcome back for another painting tutorial in acrylics. Today I'm bringing you a painting photo request from one of my beautiful Patreon members, Trish Vashon. So thank you so much, Trish, for submitting your lovely photo of yourself as this beautiful dancer, and I cannot wait to show you guys how to paint this. So let's go over all the colors, the brushes, and the canvas I'm using. I want you guys to know that you can paint along with whatever colors you like, whatever size of canvas and brushes that you like as well. I'll have a full list below this video in the description box, and there you'll have a link to my Patreon where if you'd like to connect with me one-on-one, unlock hundreds of exclusive commercial-free tutorials, and submit a photo for me to possibly paint and create a tutorial out of, you can click on that link and that will take you there, and you can join for as little as $5 a month, and that gets you so much. So let's jump in with the canvas, the colors. Here I've got an 11 by 14 double primed and stretched canvas, and the colors here: titanium white, Mars black, luminous rose, luminous yellow, and burnt sienna. The brushes I'll be using today are number 4 filbert brush, a mini liner brush here, number 5, and a number 30 filbert brush, and a mop brush, 1 inch. And I'm going to be showing you how to blend a soft background to get that blurry look going on that will help put the dancer here in full focus. So you're going to learn so much in this video today. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe so you get notified every time I upload a new video, and you won't miss out on all of the content here that I have to show you, because I love to teach and inspire and show you guys everything that I've taught myself over the past 20 years. Let's go ahead and get started. Okay, the first thing that I want to do is start working on the background. We're going to work background to foreground. We're going to apply the background in a thin layer. We're going to thin our paint out. The very first tip is adding water to the canvas. So let's take our large filbert brush, add a little bit of water, and just apply that evenly over the canvas. You just want enough to dampen the canvas. If you have water dripping and running off the canvas, then you know you have too much. So what the water does is really help the blending ability or blendability of the acrylics to get that really smooth, blended, soft look. It can make your acrylics act like oils. Okay, let's start coming in with some black and some white. So we'll start with a little bit of black, and we're going to create a focal point here, not only with the dancer, but with some light. So we're going to have it kind of just go dark to light in the center. So you want to apply some paint around the edges like this while the canvas is wet. Because the canvas is wet and the paint is wet, you don't need to put your brush in water when you go for the paint. You have enough moisture already. Now let's go ahead and add some white. And all I'm doing is just adding these little crisscrosses. Now rinse that brush out. Quickly, before this dries, go over to your soft mop brush. This one's just a makeup brush. You can use any soft mop brush you like. And we're going to just go around in little circles. Let's start in the center where we want it to be nice and light first. You shouldn't need to apply a lot of pressure, but let's just do this one side first so that you can compare and see how quickly we went from this to this. Isn't that amazing? It's like magic. Now you can use this technique within so many of your paintings, apply it to so many types of paintings, using different colors, experimenting. Let's take some white now and add a little bit more. Because acrylic paint dries so dark, I want to come in and add a little bit more white. Now I want you guys to notice what's happening as I'm adding more paint. I'm not getting as soft and blended as a result because the brush is starting to accumulate too much moisture and too much paint. So this is what happens sometimes, and then it just means you need to make sure you have a few on hand that are dry and clean and ready to go, and then go over again, only if you need to. In this case, I need to. I want this to be nice and soft. I'm going to come over with a little bit more white. I really want to have a little spotlight here on our beautiful dancer. Another dry and clean mop brush. Now, depending on the type of paint you're using, how much you're applying, the temperature in your room, there's so many different variables that go into how many brushes you may need for this process. Maybe you added more white in the beginning and less black. So you may not need to go through 3 brushes like I have. Okay, so what I'm gonna do now is completely dry this off, and then we're gonna start coming in, possibly adding a little bit more white here at the top for a nice spotlight, and coming in with our figure. Okay, so I have dried it off. What I accidentally did though was checked it too soon with my hand to see if it was dry, and I went over a little damp spot here, so there's a little mark here. Doesn't matter because her arm's going to be there anyways, but I'm going to show you how you can camouflage that, fix that, while I want to add a little bit more light up here at the top because it has dried darker like I mentioned it probably would. So I'm going to take my same 30 filbert brush. It's damp this time, and I'm going to go in for white, just kind of crisscrossing about a quarter of the way down from the end of the brush to load it. And then I'm going to just start right up here and just crisscross that in. I'm going to work the rest out. Kind of just gives it a soft, feathery kind of a look. Now, because the painting underneath the surface is dry that I'm adding this to, I'm not going to be able to get that soft blended look. So I'll just show you, it won't work. It only works when the canvas is a little bit wet and you're applying, it's wet on wet that will make it work with a dry brush. So I'm going to come in, add a little bit more white here again. You really want to take your time when you're working on achieving something. Don't get frustrated and don't try to skip steps or race through it. Try to be in the moment and enjoy the process. So sometimes you can try to go over and get a little bit of a softness, but I just wanted to show you guys that it won't work the same in this step that I'm working on because I've had a lot of questions regarding that. So somebody, sorry, I can't remember your name, but some nice lady asked if you could go over and do it again once the paint is dry underneath. And if you were to wet the canvas and try to come in and do the process all over again, it might work, but there's always the potential of disrupting the paint underneath. So just be mindful and careful of that. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is dry this off, and we're going to start coming in with a figure. Okay, so we do have a couple here. The main focus is going to be on the female dancer here. So we're not going to spend as much time detailing the male behind her or off to the side. We're just going to do expressive, simple brush strokes and keep it kind of out of focus and blurry, and then just focus on the beautiful dress here and her pose. So let's go ahead and start with the man because he's behind her. So I'm going to be taking my little filbert brush, number 4. I'm going to just show you how much water, just a little dampening, no drips on my brush. And I'm going to take a little bit of black. Loading both sides. And we're going to start up here with his arm. So we're going to have a little cuff right here. And then his arm comes on an angle right about here. Slightly getting wider. We will have his hand up here. What I'm going to do is just lightly pull out a little shape, kind of like a rounded square here, and then just a few little bumps for where his hand is. And he's going to be holding hers. I'm going to make the cuff a little bit wider here. And then his shoulder. We're going to come down, taper in just a little bit, and then bring it out here. And then her dress is going to be in here somewhere, so that the rest of this is his jacket. So if you're just tuning in now and you're wondering what I'm painting, I'm just cutting in the male dancer, her partner, that's behind her. And we're just doing this very kind of loosely, not a lot of detail. And then right about here, we're just going to have a little bit of black showing where he has his tie and white collar. Just pull in like this for like a little triangle, in like this, a little here, and then over this way, leaving a little bit of white. And we'll come in with the white after. But her shoulder's going to be in here. And arm. And then his legs, we're going to have it kind of blurry down here, but I want to include his legs. So her dress will be here, and then his legs will be down here. Again, just very kind of rough, loose, faded and blurry. Gonna make his shoulder come out just a little bit more here. Widen that. Deliberately making this a little bit bumpy for some folds in the jacket, and also to make it a little bit less rough looking. So it kind of softens the edges a little bit and takes the roughness, rough edges, harsh lines out of full focus. Okay, I'm going to go over to my mini liner brush now, and I'm going to take some white, no water, just white. I'm just going to come under here and add a little bit of white. This is the collar of his shirt. And then we can't really see the other side. And then this is just the little scarf in his pocket. We're going to add a little dab of pink in here because he's got a matching tie right there. I'm going to add just a little bit of black to that just to kind of make it a little bit less, just dull it up a little bit. Okay, and then I'm going to take some brown. I haven't washed my brush out. A little bit of white, black, brown in there. And we can come in now and add his wrist that's in shadow from the jacket, and it's really dark. And then his hand is dark, shadow. Remember, not a lot of details. A little bit more white here. And then stick a little bit more brown in there. And we're going to go right under his chin area. A little bit more black because it's a little darker there. I'm going to rinse my brush out. And then I'm going to take some white with a little bit of brown. And we're going to come right here and add his chin. And this is where we're going to make it a little blurry, out of focus, and messy. I'm going to go ahead and take a little bit of black. And his hair, side of his face is going to be here, his head, and then a little bit over here as well. Kind of blends in with his arm. So to make that separate from his arm, we'll add a little bit of light gray for a highlight on his jacket here. Rinsing my brush out once more. Black, white, and brown. We're going to add a dark spot for his eye arch there. Top of the mouth. Little dab for the nose. Just a little something like that. It doesn't have to be in full detail. I'm gonna add a little bit of white to make his chin pop out. A little bit more in here in his hand. Little dabs. Little dabs for fingers. His fingers are kind of like this because he's holding her hand in his. So there's lots going on there, so we can't see a lot. But it's just a suggestion, and that's all we really need. So now we're going to go ahead and get started with the female dancer. And we're going to just add a little bit of black and white. Again, using our little tiny brush here. And we're going to just come right in here over his cheek, close to his nose and mouth. Bring that down. Make like the shape of a crescent moon. Okay, there we have our crescent moon. And then we're going to come in with a little bit of white. And we're just going to catch the back outline of her head and her hair. I want to mention that you can add these steps, these layers of paint, wet on wet like I am here, or wet onto dry. So if your painting is drying, you can totally keep going with the steps or take a break and come back. Okay, so just a little gentle pull. And she's got a highlight right here, so I'm going to go ahead and just add some bright white there and just lightly fluff it up with the end of my brush. Okay, now I'm going to take some yellow and let's just mix that yellow in with our brown, a little bit of pink in there, and white. Make this a little bit darker. Okay, and we're going to come around here at her ear, a little curve. I'm going to gradually blend some of the skin color into her hairline. I'm going to take a little bit of white and I'm going to add some light there. So where she's got some highlights. So we're just going to make her features pop out with light and shadow. Just going to wipe the excess paint out of my brush. Soften the edges. And her chin. We're going to come in with some more of her hair. Excuse me. A bit in here. And then a little bit of white. For her highlight. I'm going to soften the bridge of her nose and add a little bit more light there. And her eyes are closed, so I'm just adding the white, the light highlights on her eyelids. But you can see how it's a lot easier to just focus on the light and the dark areas of the face. Could add a little bit more there. Okay, picking up some more white. Softening. I'm going to rinse my brush out. And I'm going to take a little bit of brown and black. Very thin amount, very little amount here. Just going to outline, define that nose and nostrils. Eyebrows, little arches, and then the shadows in her eyelids, the crease. Little shadows in her ears, or her ear, we're only painting one. And her forehead. And a little bit of a shadow that comes down the corners of her eyes. Okay, and that's all we're gonna see there. We'll add a little bit of a shadow for her cheek. Okay, her little smile lines here. I'm going to soften this brown by adding some of this light brown that we made earlier. Take a little bit of white. Just want to bring her face out a little bit more right there. A little bit more right here. I'm going to take a little bit of pink and add that to my brown mixture. And start working on her mouth. Just a little arch like this. A little bit of water to my brush. Just a little bit under her nose there. And take a little bit more white. Mix that in and just add a little bit more to her cheek there. And meet that highlight at the corner of her eye. I'm going to take a little bit of the yellow and the white. There's a little bit of brown in my brush as well. And I'm going to let that come out because she's got a little bit of warmth to her hair here. I'm going to add some more hair up here. So it's darker in between, and then it's lighter on the outer edges. Let's come in and add some white to make that brighter now. We still got that nice warmth from the yellow. And then we're going to add a little dab for an earring, and then one, just a little hint of one on that side as well. So let's come in and start working on her neck and shoulder now. I'm going to come in with my smaller filbert brush, a little bit of pink, brown, and black. Just past her chin. We're going to just lightly pull at an angle. And then go into some white and that light color. We're going to pull this over. Light little scoops back and forth. Soften. Come out with her arm, her neck area. The rest is going to be dress. So now we can fill the rest in here with black. I'm just gonna go over to my little liner brush. Let's take just a little bit of pink, white, and a little bit of yellow. Make a nice light pink, and we're just gonna add a little highlight here on her lip. Then I'm gonna define that with some brown, so we're gonna go and just outline that. Just gonna soften that line. Okay, I'm gonna go back over to my filbert brush, a little bit of white, and I'm gonna come inside the arm and add some light here. Okay, then I'm going to come over here and work on her other arm. So I'm going to start with a little bit of black, brown, and white. We're going to just add a little line right here, right like this, and then come up. So her temple right here is where her elbow will be. That's where her arm's going to be bending. And then we're going to come up. And her hand is going to be fingers there, palm of her hand, wrist. Okay, I'm going to rinse my brush out. I want to take a little bit of black and brown, and I'm going to make this darker right here. We have a shadow here. Darker in that area as well. A little bit there. Soften that off. And now we can come in with our softer colors for her skin, for the lighter shade. So some white, a little bit of yellow, pink, brown. We'll get her wrist here and the palm of her hand, just little dabs, that's all you need. We're gonna go inside. And then right here. So we're going to leave a shadow in the crease of her elbow. And then pull down here. Coming back in with more white now and a clean brush. And I'm going to just thinly and then push a little bit harder. To use just a little bit more pressure there for width. Working her armpit in here, muscle, all right, so now what I want to do is start working on her dress, and we're going to come in with some pink, a little bit of brown, and we'll start her strap right here, close to her shoulder, thin. So I'm just turning my brush this way to make thin lines. Bring it down to there, because we're going to paint the rest of her arm after we do the dress. And then we're going to bring this, scoop of her neck, up and over there. Add a little bit of black and brown in with my pink. Thin amount, not very much paint. Just a little bit darker in here. And then there's little bits of black patterns on her dress. So we'll just add these little dabs. A little like that. A little bit of black, thin here. And then her dress has some black on it as well here. It's kind of sparkly. There's like sequins, so I'm going to leave a little bit of the gray in there. And then bring the other part, the waist in here with a little bit of this showing, right? We'd see a little bit right there. Take some more pink now, and I'm gonna dab, dab, dab for a little bit of texture and to give it kind of a bit of a 3D sparkle effect. We'll come in with a little bit of white after. I'm gonna come in here now. We're going to start to pull the shape of her dress. I'll take a little bit of brown in there. We still have to paint the rest of her arm. We're going to add a little V down here and then kind of round it out. Brown and pink. A little bit of black in there and the pink and the brown again, so you can see the color here. Not a lot of paint on my brush. We're going to add a fold right here. Pull and sweep there. And then we're going to have another one that comes, another piece of fabric here that comes over that. I'm working the paint out of my ferrule so I can load the tip of my brush. We're going to sweep from here and we're going to add creases just these little lines for creases in her fabric. I'm going to go back to her arm here, clean brush, pink, white, and yellow. Her elbow right here, and then we're going to go across here But the paint is still wet, so that's why I'm picking up some of that and it's blending in, but once it dries, I'm going to come over. We'll be coming over with some more highlights and the color I want it to be. And then just a few little lines here and dabs for her hand. Now once we add the shadows, it'll all make sense and start to really look like something. I mean, I think it already is. I really like how this looks. Just adding some highlights here. A little bit more light. I'm gonna add a little bit of brown in here. Okay, I'm gonna go back over to my small liner brush. A little bit of white on here. Get those skin colors going again. There's a tiny bit of black in there. And just outline slightly here. Add a few little lines for her elbow and the rest of the details in her arm, muscles, tendons, whatever they are. Now you can see the reference photo and download it and paint from it directly on Patreon, and you can also enjoy this video and hundreds more commercial free, interruption free, which is way more relaxing and enjoyable. And remember, the link for that is below this video. So her wrist is right here. And we're going to come right through here, keep loading the brush, keeping it brightest on the top here. It'll be darker on the bottom for a shadow. Okay, her fingers. I'm going to add a little bit of, just a little bit of brown and black in here. That's her pinky. And then the rest of her knuckles, like she's like this, but her pinky's out. I really, really love that I get this opportunity to paint from my Patreon's photos, because If it weren't for my Patreon members, I would not be able to sustain this channel for everybody. So shout out to all of you Patreon members. Thank you so much for making this possible. Shadows. Add a little bit more pink in here. Bring this out. A little bit of black right in here. And then just a little hint of pink right in here for the side of her dress. That we're going to connect with over here. Mix in a little bit of black in there. Her dress, the black dark parts on her dress are kind of blending in with his jacket. I want to add some sparkle. Little dots of white here. And then just dabbing off with my finger. I'm going to mix a little bit of pink and white. And add a little bit more. Remember those creases here? We're gonna pull some of this in, maybe just a little bit more of that rose. And pull this way. Fill the top in there. Because her dress comes up into a point here and then down here. I want to add just a little bit of pink to her cheeks. I'm going to tone it with a little bit of the yellow, a little bit of white in there. Work off most of the paint. So you're left with more of a dry brush and just a touch of that. Okay, I'm going to take some black and I'm going to come down and outline her arm here. Pinky. A little bit of brown. A little bit more shadows. little half circle right there in the middle of her hand. And then a few lines like that. Pick up a little bit of that soft cream color. Back to the black. Just wanted to add a little bit more to his hair, but I'm going to soften it with my damp small filbert brush here. Soften, soften. Clean brush, a little bit of white. I'm going to just pull over in this section here where I want it to be a little bit lighter. There's a little bit of yellow in there, that works too. Okay, now we can start working on her dress. I'm going to come in with her legs, and they're just going to be kind of dark and blurry. I'm going to take a little bit of white, yellow, brown, and black. And one leg's going to be right in here. And there, let's make this even darker, a little bit more black and brown. The legs are going to be out of focus, and I'm going to add a little bit of light effect blurriness after. Taking off a little bit right here, and we're going to come in with our dress. So I'm going to come in with pink, a little bit of white, a little bit of yellow, warming that pink up. Pull in like a petal. Mix those colors up again. And then we're going to come up like this and curve over and down. Sweep this down. Over, over. Load the end of your brush up. Pull in, and it's very similar to painting flowers for me. And I like using the filbert brush because you get those nice ruffly edges. Okay, I'm gonna go back over to the dark brown black rose mixture that we made this with, and I'm gonna bring this down a little lower. I need a little bit more in there. And then where it goes down here, where it goes down is where we're going to have some more darker spots. That gives us some shadows. And then where it goes up is where the light catches it. So dark under, light over. We're going to have some lines in here for the fabric, for shadows where it's tight together and overlapping, and just all those little ruffles in there. Layering of fabric is giving us some shadows. Okay, I'm going to rinse my brush out now. The paint, after a while, starts to work its way up into the ferrule and starts to dry and harden the brush. So you want to make sure that you're remembering to wash your brush out. Even if you're wanting to use the same color, you want to start fresh and rinse your brushes out. I want to come in here and add more of this color that I was just using. Fresh and clean brush though, so that I'm not ruining it by the build-up. Okay, then I'm going to take the light color again, mix up yellow, pink, and white. Load the end of your brush with the paint. Add just a little bit more pink, light pink, white to it to make it really soft. And then up. Pull that up to the side of her dress. So it's kind of deceiving, this pattern in her dress. It's black here, but actual backside is over here. There's a sash that comes around and wraps over. It's such a beautiful dress. Okay, add a little bit more and more of the pink as we get down into the shadow here. And then I'm going to come in between here. Shadow there. So you really feel the twirl detail and the movement in the dress. And that's what really caught my attention and perked my interest with this painting for Trish. Adding a little bit more white here and working that paint out of the ferrule so that it's on the end of my brush. I've got a little flip of the fabric that comes up here. We want to make this piece here come in front and set that back. So I'm going to just use a little bit more white to make this a little bit lighter. Just a gentle pull, twist, and turn. I'm going to go back over to my little liner brush and add some highlights. I want to get those little lines in the fabric again. Gonna add some of the pink in there, full strength. Mix that pink and white up and add a few little dabs in here. I'm going to add some more black here with my filbert brush. I may have watered that down a bit too much. I'll just dab the excess off on a towel. And then I'm going to just blur the rest up down here, just with some black. Rinsing my brush out. Then I'll take just a little bit of white in here. Not a lot of paint. Soften with my larger filbert brush. And I'm going to go back to my smaller filbert and I'm going to add a little bit more shadow right in here. I'm going to add a little touch of black so we can really feel the turn and twist of the fabric and the light and shadow. Mix those colors up again and sweep up. That's the darkest right in here. A little bit more black. Right there. I'm having so much fun painting this dress. To be honest, I'm imagining I'm a dancer. You gotta imagine yourself into the paintings. It's fun to do that, and it makes your paintings a little bit more special because you're putting feeling into them. Take a little bit of that white, yellow, pink mixture. We're going to add a little bit of light here on her chest area, just a little bit of a dry brush there. And then a little dab of black right in here. Just a touch of this light pink with that black in there. Rinse my brush out really, really well. Get all of that paint out of the barrel of the brush. Soften. And then I'm going to come in here with a clean brush, a little bit of warmth by mixing, if you guys can see that, a little bit of the yellow in there. Add some light. Using the belly of the brush, gently blend. We talked about spotlight at the beginning of the painting. It's really bright right here, so extra white, and then it's just casting light down on them both here. But she's really the focal point. I'm just gonna add a little bit more black in here. One last highlight, because as this dries, it dries a little bit darker. And I'm just going to add it in the brightest areas where the light's catching. Last dab of white. This leg area here is bugging me, so I want to bring the rest of her dress down over that. And we're going to come in, ripple that down there. And it still doesn't look thick enough, so I'm just going to take a little bit more brown in here. Okay, this painting's all done. It was such a joy to paint. I want to thank Trish Vachon so much for submitting her photo on Patreon so that I could share this with all of you guys. Hope to make your day a little bit brighter, get those creative juices flowing, and inspire you guys. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to leave a comment below or a question if you have one for a future tutorial. Thanks so much. I'll see you guys all soon in another video. Bye!